Chapter 971, Mentally Unsound Person. Zhong Yutong and Chen Zuan looked at one another helplessly. What Lord of Heaven? Chen Zuan laughed. Is this fellow from the imperial court? Do you think he knows the Monkey King? Stop that. Zhong Yutong glared at Chen Zuan. Ever since Lu Shu had disappeared from Luo City, Zhong Yutong had finally regained his sense of authority. When Lu Shu was around, he felt as if his life would be in danger with just one wrong word. But, although he had regained his authority, Zhong Yutong was not happy. He longed for the days of the past. At that moment, a white figure appeared. Zhong Yutong looked at it. Little Fury, have you confirmed anything? The hairy little Fury took out its notebook and started to write on it. Yes. He's the only one. He is not very strong. I am 90% sure that I can make him go to sleep. The purple tuft of hair on Little Fury's head was sparkling under the sun. There were over 10 mice following him. Little Fury had been left alone on Earth to take on the heavy responsibility of maintaining public order. It worked with the Heavenly Network out of its own initiative. When it first approached Zhong Yutong, he was rather surprised. Everyone knew about the existence of Little Fury, but they deliberately turned a blind to it. Even though it had been very aggressive during the outbreak of mutated animals, the Heavenly Network had not taken any measures against Little Fury. Everyone had trusted Lu Shu then. They also trusted the ones beside him, even if they were animals. Back then, when Zhong Yutong asked Little Fury why it wanted to help the Heavenly Network out of its own initiative, Little Fury wrote, I want to spread Lu Shu's spirit. When Zhong Yutong saw this, he was dumbfounded. At this moment, Zhong Yutong said in a serious tone, this has to do with a life. 90% is not enough. If you fail and cause someone to die, it will not be good. Little Fury thought about it. It wrote with determination. I'm 100% sure. Immediately after, they heard the sound of static through the wireless earphones. Then, it was as if everyone who was listening to the situation inside had been affected by some strange law of nature. It was as if time had slowed down. The next moment, Chao Qingxi walked out of the villa with the strange armored man in hand. The window of the villa had been broken. Chao Qingxi had forced her way in through the window and defeated this person with absolutely no concern for him. But even Zhong Yutong did not know when Chao Qingxi had been lying in ambush there. Chao Qingxi's ability to hide had become surprisingly good. Chao Qingxi lifted up the person, who was now unconscious. She said, let's interrogate him and understand the situation. I don't think it is as simple as a mentally unsound person. Zhong Yutong did not blame Chao Qingxi for acting alone. To be honest, Chao Qingxi had embarked on more missions than Zhong Yutong. Although Zhong Yutong's judgment in these situations was outstanding, Chao Qingxi's was better. Everyone knew that Chao Qingxi was Nie Ting's disciple. She might even become a heavenly king one day with her contributions and strength. She was the only one in her Daoyuan class who had achieved Class A. She was always ahead of others. Zhong Yutong led everyone back to the Luotian Cultivation College. Currently, a quarter of the Cultivation College was used by the Yuzhou Heavenly Network. It was fully equipped. On the way back, he thought about it. Although many mentally unsound patients had their own logic, there was something not right with this person. He did not have any violent tendencies, nor any extreme reactions in terms of his personality. His actions were very normal. It was as if he was lost. Zhong Yutong was not an ordinary person. An ordinary person could not become the chief manager of Yuzhou. He immediately reported this to his superiors. That night, the students of the Luotian Cultivation College were walking towards the canteen when they heard someone flying at supersonic speed, in the sky. Some looked up and saw a person flying. They excitedly shouted, "It's Heavenly King Chen. Heavenly King Chen is here." The Heavenly Kings in the Heavenly Network were like true leaders. Each of them had their own fans. Surprisingly, the ninth heavenly king, who looked like he would be hated, had the most number of fans. When Chen Bailey came, Nie Ting was already there. The students did not even realize when Nie Ting had arrived. Nie Ting got up and walked inside with Chen Bailey. Then, they looked into the staff room. Zhang Yutong was sitting opposite the armored person. The armored person was being shackled to the spot using special materials used by the Heavenly Network. I will ask you questions, and you will answer me. Zhang Yutong slowly said, "What is your name?" The person coldly looked at Zhang Yutong. "Who sent you?" "The Liang family?" "The Zhang family?" "Where is this?" Zhang Yutong was not angry. "What is your name?" But the person continued to talk about himself. He questioned Zhang Yutong, "You should know that I work for the Lord of Heaven. If the Lord of Heaven realizes that I am missing, what will the consequences be? Can you aristocrats handle the consequences?" Zhang Yutong suddenly felt very mentally tired. It was very exhausting to talking to a mentally unsound person. Many people did not understand how difficult it was to be a psychiatrist. Zhang Yutong finally understood. This time, Zhang Yutong did not ask for his name. He waved to someone outside. The psychiatrist, who had been waiting outside, walked in. The psychiatrist was skilled. He did not ask for his name. He simply continued the conversation. "Why do you think that we are from the Liang family or the Zhong family?" The person furrowed his eyebrows. "Why does your white gown look so odd? Why are all of you dressed in such a strange manner?" "I only have conflict with the Liang family and the Zhong family. Why would the other aristocrats spend so much effort in sending me here?" The psychiatrist asked curiously, "Who is the Lord of Heaven?" The person laughed coldly. "You are being disrespectful to the Lord of Heaven." The psychiatrist suddenly laughed coldly. "What Lord of Heaven? How would I know who the Lord of Heaven is? How bold! My Lord of Heaven can humiliate you." The person was furious. Zhang Yutong silently stood beside Nie Ting and listened to how the psychiatrist made the person speak. Needless to say, it was rather useful. Zhang Yutong was scared. This person had better not be a mentally unsound person. He had even asked Heavenly King Nie and Heavenly King Qin to come here. If this person was mentally unsound, it would become a joke. Nie Ting's long fingers tapped rhythmically. It was as if he was thinking about something. The situation had stalled. Everyone did not know what this person was talking about. He seemed like a mentally unsound patient. But at that moment, Nie Ting suddenly asked through the glass, "Have you heard of Lu Shu?" The glass was soundproof, but it could not block Nie Ting's voice. His voice was like a rule that surpassed the limits of ordinary materials. The person inside was dumbfounded. Who is speaking? Wait, Lu Shu sounds very familiar. Chapter 972, Lu Shu's Clue. This time everyone, including Zhang Yutong, were stunned. They looked with a strange gaze. They had been trying to look for Lu Shu for such a long time that they had almost given up. Everyone hoped to see the young man again. They would not even mind if he angered them so much until they died. Noon expected Nie Ting to ask them that. Moreover, they seemed to have gotten some clues. At this moment, Zhang Yutong realized that the tempo at which Nie Ting was tapping his fingers that was messed up. The messy tempo seemed to exhibit Nie Ting's excitement. Everyone kept silent and allowed the lunatic to organize his thoughts. At this moment, everyone was impressed by Nie Ting's thought process. After guessing that the other party could have come from another world, he immediately asked for Lu Shu's name. They heard the person muttering to himself, "Why must you ask about this person? His name sounds familiar. I am sure I can find the clues you all need." "Hold on, isn't he the commander of the Weiwu army?" At this moment, Zhang Yutong and the rest were stunned. What on earth? Who was the Weiwu army? The Weiwu army was clearly unrelated to Lu Shu, right? Chen Bailey frowned and looked disappointed. Initially, he thought he could find a clue regarding Lu Shu's disappearance, but now it seemed like the clue was unrelated. Or was this person really a lunatic? Everyone was slightly disappointed as they thought that they got it wrong. However, Nie Ting did not waver. He said calmly, "Tell me about this commander of the Weiwu army and I will tell you where this is." The man calmed down and thought about it for a moment before saying suddenly, "There's no harm telling them the details. However, I am slightly hungry, get me some food." After all, Lu Shu was unrelated to him and his knowledge was based on rumors. He would definitely not reveal any details related to himself, but shouldn't the entire universe know the fact that Lu Shu was the commander of the Weiwu army? Nie Ting threw a glance at Zhong Yutong to bring in the food. That person did not fidget around as he sat in the staff room. He was merely a rank 2 practitioner and was not a big character in the West region. He merely became the transporter because he was outstanding. When Chao Qingxi appeared in front of him, he knew that he could not mess around with her. He was the most confused over why he ended up at this location after he went to the side of the road to pee, while he was in the process of transporting the food to the front lines. To be honest, he could not believe it too. Zhong Yutong carried the food to that individual. The food in the canteen of the Luotian Cultivation College was tasty, but that individual was surprised when he took a bite of the meat dish. "What is this? It is so delicious." Zhong Yutong was speechless. Why was he acting in such a good-for-nothing manner? After he finished his food, that individual paused for a moment before saying, "Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army, was initially the fake king of the bandits. However, he strangely became the commander of the Weiwu army. After he assumed the role as the commander, the Black Feather Army met the Weiwu Army in the Weibei Pass. Then the Longmang Army. Then, at this moment, the individual briefly mentioned about what he had heard about Lu Shu. For example, how Lu Shu led the Weiwu Army in the fight with the Black Feather Army, how he disgusted the Black Feather Army and the army of the aristocrats, as well as how he organized bets with the gambling den of the palace and was behaving like an A*S. Zhong Yutong took a deep breath. It must be him. It must be him. Zhong Yutong, Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao suddenly became excited. "We found him. We finally found him." Nie Ting also looked happy. At least, everyone knew that not only was Lu Shu alright, but he was in fact leading a good life. However, after thinking about it, everyone felt speechless. The 9th Heavenly King was really a troublemaker. There was actually no difference in the time zone of the Luniverse and the Earth. Therefore, in this short period of time that Lu Shu was away, he had actually created so many F***king problems. If they were not mistaken, Lu Shu was currently controlling an army made up of soldiers who were above Class C. And there were also 4 Class A fighters? How could he be so powerful? Moreover, Lu Shu did so well that he could match up to the regular army over there. This made Chen Zuan extremely excited and he could not wait to fight alongside Lu Shu. The thought of it was extremely exciting. Then, the man continued, "Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army, is a powerful person. He managed to upgrade the skills of the originally terrible Weiwu army." Initially, the aristocrats of the North region did not believe him. After that, he pretended to be bandits and robbed them. His alias as a bandit was, yes, it was to escape poverty and make a fortune. Nie Ting was silent. Zhong Yutong was silent. Chen Zuan was speechless. Cheng Qiuqiao was speechless too. Escape poverty and make a fortune? What the F***ck? If it was not Lu Shu, Chen Zuan would have played it live and wrecked it. "Brother Shu is indeed the best in the world," exclaimed Chen Zuan. He did not stop at all. Nie Ting suddenly said, "Confirm with him where he appeared from. There could be a passageway that connects both worlds." Little Fury checked this before, said Zhong Yutong, the remains we were looking for would appear in the Longmen Mountain. However, we found out that the intense waves of energy might not be because of the remains, but rather due to the passageway. However, we had tried and concluded that after the intense waves, it became an ordinary place without any passageways. Guard that place and lock down the entire Longmen Mountain, said Nieting with a frown. Meanwhile, prepare to build a fort on the foundations of Luo City. Zhong Yutong said calmly, are you worried that the people from that side would still come over? Everything is possible. I looked through your report. The activity on the Longmen Mountain was becoming more regular. Perhaps it was because the door of space was becoming increasingly unstable and the two worlds encountered some form of collision. Nieting took a glance at Zhong Yutong. Perhaps something more intense would happen and it would be too late to build the fort then. Zhong Yutong nodded. I will start preparing and complete this task as soon as possible. Get Little Fury here, I have something to ask him, said Nieting. At this moment, Zhong Yutong was stunned. Hold on, where is Little Fury? He followed us on our way here. At this moment, another wave of energy came from the Longmen Mountain and Nieting looked towards the north as though he could see the Longmen Mountain, located over 60 kilometers away. There's no need to look for him. Chapter 973, The Mystery of the Heavenly Country. The interrogation in Luo City was still ongoing. The students of Luotian Cultivation College only saw how some of the members of the Heavenly Network took away many boxes of food from the canteen. Then, they realized that there must be something going on in the building at the headquarters of the Heavenly Network. Everyone was so busy that they did not have time to eat. They also knew about what happened on the Longmen Mountain that caused it to be cordoned off completely. Before the members of the Heavenly Network rushed over, the members of Luotian Cultivation College had to take over the work for cordoning off the mountain. Zhong Yutong and the rest were holding an emergency meeting to adjust the interrogation strategy. After confirming that the other party was not a lunatic, they could no longer continue interrogating him as usual because he was not a lunatic. One could communicate properly with an ordinary person and make use of various tactics. However, that was not the case for lunatics as lunatics did not know how to think logically. Luniverse was a world that could become the crisis of the entire Earth. The passageway on the Longmen Mountain was slightly different from that on the Changbai Mountains. Nobody knew if it was specially created for humans or did it appear coincidentally. We have to understand the situation in the Luniverse from this person, including the Luniverse population, geography, capabilities, and so on, Zhong Yutong said and smacked his lips. Why does the name of the Luniverse sound so awkward? Everyone in the conference room nodded in unison. I also think that the name of the Luniverse is awkward. To be honest, both the Golden Foundation and the Heavenly Network had thought that the Luniverse was their enemy. According to legend, there was a demon king who was exiled in the Luniverse who represented everyone's fear to live. This demon king seemed to have been labeled as the villain in the legends on Earth. It was no wonder that everyone thought he was the enemy. In everyone's opinion, the Luniverse should look like hell. There were ghosts and beasts everywhere and the entire place was like the wilds. After all, everyone called it the land of exile. However, as the interrogation went on, everyone realized that things were not the same as they had thought. There were mountains and seas, filled with fortresses, and was extremely vast. The king in the legend seemed to be the common leader of the Luniverse. He did not have the intent to go to the Earth at all as none of the people in the Luniverse knew about the Earth. During the interrogation, in order to get the information from Li Ke, the delivery man of the Black Feather Army in the western region, Zhong Yutong selectively told the other party some information regarding Earth. We have a city called Luoyang. Right after that sentence, Zhong Yutong realized that the other party suddenly became excited. Li Ke's eyes lit up. Luoyang? Luo City? Zhong Yutong felt strange. Yes, Luo City. Is there a Mount Tai too? Li Ke tried to suppress his emotions, but Zhong Yutong realized that both of his hands were trembling. Yes, there is Mount Tai, how do you know about that? Zhong Yutong was very confused. Did the people in the Luniverse know about the existence of Earth? Or rather, was Li Ke lying earlier on? Many of the people in the Luniverse had sneakily went to Earth before in order to prepare for the attack on Earth? Or else, why would they know about Luoyang and Mount Tai? Just as Zhong Yutong was in a state of confusion, Li Ke suddenly said, "This is the heavenly country. This is actually the heavenly country." Li Ke was almost close to tears. This caused Zhong Yutong and the rest to be completely stunned. What on earth was happening? What heavenly country, heavenly country? No wonder all of you are so powerful, no wonder this world is so strange, this is the heavenly country, said Li Ke in an affirmed manner. Zhong Yutong and the rest looked serious. Then, they sent the outstanding doctor of the mental hospital over again. After 3 days, they finally understood what had happened. Oh, the old king of gods was actually a serial plagiarizer. After they figured out what had happened, everyone fell silent. Zhong Yutong hesitated for a while before saying, "Why do I feel that they will not attack? If they attacked, won't he be exposed for copying?" Someone at the side said, "That's what I think too." Firstly, the Luniverse did not know about the existence of the Earth. Moreover, if they really attacked, after understanding the culture of the Earth, the first person to die would be the image of the old king of gods, right? Apparently he did not even change the address when he copied. He forcefully copied everything. However, this at least shows that he has been to Earth before. I even suspect that he is a regular visitor, said Zhong Yutong gloomily. Why didn't historical records have these recorded? Perhaps he was so powerful that we weren't able to discover it, someone said. I suspect that if the king of gods knew about the passageway to Earth, he would not attack but would rather seal it up. However, according to what Li Ke said, the old king of gods has already died and I am not sure what would happen after that. Hold on, why do I feel that the old king of gods is somewhat strange? I feel like I have met him before. Zhong Yutong said suddenly but shook his head immediately. Don't get fooled by his appearance, though. Think about what Li Ke just said. Before the palace was built, the entire Luniverse was like the wild and settlements with extremely powerful beasts and animals. Each settlement had fought many battles in the past. However, the old king of gods managed to conquer the entire world by himself and killed countless people and creatures during the 3,000 years of battle. The beasts were all killed or chased out. This is a feat that is not achievable by just any Tom, Dick or Harry. Perhaps the old king of gods was more cruel than what they had imagined. Gather all the information about the Luniverse, especially their capabilities, said Zhong Yutong as he frowned in the conference room. Relay the information to the Department of Foundational Architecture. Tell them to redesign the fort based on the information of the other world and stop using Earth as a standard. At this moment, everyone had to face the reality. The capability of the Luniverse was much stronger than that of Earth. If the external party invaded Earth, it would be disastrous. How often does the wave of energy occur on the Longmen Mountain? Asked Zhong Yutong. When the Heavenly Network realized the unusual matter on the Longmen Mountain, they had built a real-time surveillance station to record the waves of energy. Someone took a glance at the document and said, "Once a year, I suspect that it is related to the distance between the paths taken by the stars. So the next time that this phenomenon will happen will most likely be a year later," said Zhong Yutong after thinking about it. Please get ready, everyone, we only have about 1 year's time. The Heavenly Network suddenly began their operations. Although they did not know what would happen in the future, they would definitely not sit idly. Chapter 974, The Adventures of Little Fury. Following a wave of energy, a large number of mice rushed to Longmen Mountain before it was completely locked up by the Heavenly Network. Little Fury carried its small backpack and stood at a high point, directing the mice with its claws. It looked like the leader of the special forces in a foreign movie shouting, "Go! Go! Go!" The mice traveled in a neat and orderly manner as they covered the mountains. They did not bite tree branches, scare passers-by, or steal things. Little Fury felt that it was very amazing. It had nurtured these mice to a decent quality. Who else would be able to do so? It was very clear of the route to that area. One would be able to obtain information just by asking any one of the mice. Before Zhong Yutong and the rest could understand where Li Ku had come from, it already confirmed that that was the place Lu Shu had gone. During this period of time, Little Fury was very sad and very lonely. Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had abandoned it and run away. How could it bear this? But it knew that it was because Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu definitely had some problems that they could not talk about. They were a family. They would definitely not leave him to fend for himself. Now, since Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had gone to another world, it definitely had to gather there. Back then, before Lu Xiaoyu left, she had told Little Fury that it would not be able to pass through to that world. But Li Ku had been able to pass through. This meant that the rules for entry was different from when Lu Xiaoyu had passed through. Little Fury and its mice might be able to go there. But Little Fury knew that if the mice could not go through, it would have no choice but to stay behind. Without it to lead them and stay in Luo City, these mice might cause trouble. There were almost 1,000 Class C mice, and 10,000 mice who were below Class C. Although many mice had died in the fight against the scorpions, the ones who had survived were the elites. If these mice rebelled, it might be able to destroy the entire Luo City. Little Fury wildly used its claws and gestured to the mice. Hurry up. They had to reach that place before the wave of energy. If not, they would have missed their chance. When Little Fury led the mice to the pathway, it glanced at the mice. The mice charged towards the pathway, not afraid of death. The gray mice disappeared from the world as if they had disappeared into thin air. It heaved a sigh of relief. If the mice were not able to pass through, they would rebound back. As expected, this pathway was different from the one Lu Xiaoyu had passed through. Little Fury adjusted its small backpack. It was time to go. It felt as if it was passing through a ripple. When the ripple subsided, Little Fury saw the mice army beside it. They were surrounded by beautiful scenery. A wide path was not too far away from them. Little Fury was suddenly confused. Where should it look for Lu Shu? At that moment, a group passed by them. They did not seem like an army, as they did not have a uniform. They did not seem aggressive either. The carriages were filled with goods and moved slowly. The driver was even singing folk songs. At that moment, everyone in the group instantly fell asleep. Little Fury led the army of mice and jumped onto the carriage. It directed the mice to open up the boxes on the carriage. It wanted to see what was inside these boxes. Then, when they opened the boxes, they saw neatly arranged bars of soap. But this was not the most important. Most importantly, a portrait of Little Fury's head was engraved onto the soap. The mice quietly looked at their boss. They did not understand the situation. On the other hand, Little Fury was deep in thought. The fury on the soap was definitely Little Fury. Even the tuft of hair was exactly the same. Thus, Little Fury had found a clue from Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu within 10 minutes of arriving in the Luniverse. It was rather surprised. This was far too easy. The entire group was asleep. Little Fury entered their dreams and questioned them about the source of the soap. The traveling businessmen were dumbfounded. They could not understand what was going on. When Little Fury looked at where the trade caravan had come from, it was very happy. The Weiwu army in Nanging City. That was where it had to go. Although these traveling businessmen did not know much detailed information about the Weiwu army, at least they knew that the commander of the Weiwu army was Lu Shu. But there were many things that were completely different from what Little Fury had thought. Thus, it had to go to Nanging City to sort out the situation. The army of mice charged forth. According to what Little Fury knew, it would take half a month for them to reach Nanging City. They might encounter the Black Feather Army. Although Little Fury did not know what the Black Feather Army was, it did not care. It would be fine as long as they did not walk by the main road. Since the army of mice was not an actual army, they would not pose a huge problem. The next day, while Little Fury led the army of mice, it passed by a fleet of vehicles transporting rations. It was rather unlucky. The people in the rations department were rather dejected. They were transporting grains when their leader suddenly disappeared. The disappearance of Li Ku had caused the rations department to delay their schedule. They had looked for him for a day, but to no avail. Thus, they continued on their journey. The assistant leader took over in place of Li Ku. Little Fury wanted to avoid them, but the army of mice was hungry. They could find food in the wilderness, but it would take effort. Having grains now would be the best. The rations department traveled in the day and rested at night. But when they woke up, they realized that over half of their grains had disappeared. The soldiers in the rations department started to panic. This was very important for the front lines of the battle. If they did not have grains, what would the soldiers of the Black Feather Army eat? They quickly sent someone to report this to the front lines. The commander, Li Liang, was melancholic. He had wanted to retire in the palace, but encountered wild retaliation from the aristocrat armies. He would not be able to escape for now. Even if he could escape, forget it. But how did they lose grains within the West region? Li Liang was dejected. If he did not already receive information that the Weiwu army was in North region, he would have thought that the Weiwu army had come all the way to the West region. Why did he always encounter these strange situations? From Li Liang's distress, plus 666. Because of this, Little Fury took 1 week to reach the outskirts of Nanging City. It ordered the army of mice to stay in the mountains outside the city and entered the city alone. The first thing he did was to find the Weiwu army. It was in the afternoon. Little Fury carried its backpack and secretly infiltrated the city. It used its ability to enter dreams to find the Weiwu army's military camp. When he came to the military camp, Little Fury suddenly saw Li Haitan and many soldiers sitting at the parade square. They were learning to read and were doing homework. Little Fury was so touched that it almost cried. No doubt about it, Lu Shu was definitely here. Chapter 975, Distress Points that Ceased Abruptly. Lu Shu was puzzled. When he entered the forest and encountered the notorious mercenary soldiers who had come from far away, he suddenly received a strange notification. From Nia Ting's distress. The second clause had disappeared. This was the first time Lu Shu had experienced this. It was as if the distress points had ceased abruptly. He felt that this was strange. Ever since he had come to the Luniverse, he had never received any distress points from Earth. Where did these distress points come from? Why did he only receive half of the information? Where were the numbers? It was as if he had suddenly lost connection while browsing the internet. Luckily, he did not have OCD. If he did, he would have gone mad. Wait. Lu Shu suddenly thought of one possibility. It was only a possibility. Was there a brief moment when the Luniverse was connected to Earth? This seemed to be the most hopeful possibility. But Lu Shu did not know where the pathway was. If not, he would definitely have started looking for it. In reality, when the army of mice passed through the pathway, the waves of energy above Longmen Mountain completely disappeared. The pathway also disappeared. According to Zhong Yutong's judgment, the pathway would only open up again in a year's time. But Zhong Yutong and the rest came up with a possibility. Did the progress in the magically rich era have something to do with this pathway? If this was the case, then the waves of energy that appeared above Longmen Mountain would not appear regularly. There would be times when it occurred more and more often. Sun Zhongyang and the rest saw Lu Shu walk into the forest in a calm and unhurried manner. Suddenly, he stopped. Mo Xiaoya asked in doubt, "Do you think he is regretting this?" "Doesn't seem like it," said Sun Zhongyang. Not only were Sun Zhongyang and the rest puzzled, the mercenary soldiers in the forest also did not know why Lu Shu had suddenly stopped. Was he intentionally buying time for Sun Zhongyang and the rest? But the next moment, Lu Shu suddenly rushed into the forest like a ghost. Lu Xiaoyu followed behind him. Sun Zhongyang and the rest looked on helplessly as sword energy appeared from Lu Shu's fingers. The sword energy came into contact with a tree branch, but it was not weakened by the impact. Instead, it sliced through the tree branch and landed on the mercenary soldier. Even his armor was not able to protect him. The other armored soldiers looked coldly as their comrade fell to the ground. Suddenly, they started to pace around in the forest and alternate their formation to kill. They had no empathy for their comrade. They did not seem to have the slightest bit of fear either. They had faced countless strong enemies over the years. But they were the ones who had survived in the end. They were only 2 rank 2s. Even if their swordplay was extraordinary, so what? Lu Shu felt people staring at him and Lu Xiaoyu. Their gazes were cold and cruel. He had wanted to scare them, but did not expect them to be so experienced. They were used to a life where luxury and danger existed side by side. Since he could not scare them away, Lu Shu sighed. "It looks like we have to commit a massacre." After they entered the forest, Lu Xiaoyu thought about it. "Shall I handle that rank 1? Take care of these people." "Leave the rank 1 to me," said Lu Shu. He urgently needed a fight to break through his limit. Thus, while Sun Zhongyang and the rest saw Lu Shu as being driven by money, to Lu Shu, he was just conveniently earning money. Sun Zhongyang and the rest had not fully recovered from their injuries. They had no power to take part in this kind of fight. Song Bo, who was not injured, wanted to participate, but if he did, he would have to face the awkward situation of paying Lu Shu more money. At first, Mo Xiaoya and the rest could not understand why Lu Shu was not willing to let Song Bo help them. But when they heard the wails of the mercenary soldiers in the forest, they realized that they were still underestimating Lu Shu. The trees in the forest fell to the ground, producing a large cloud of smoke. This caused even the insects in the forest to run for their lives. It was as if a disaster was upon them. At that moment, Sun Zhongyang and the rest realized that the wails in the forest had ceased. It was as if the fight had never happened. Is the fight over? Sun Zhongyang and the rest were puzzled. It can't be that fast, right? From the looks of it, they seem like they're really done. Song Bo was dumbfounded as well. When Lu Shu told Lu Xiaoyu to take care of the other soldiers in the forest, the bishop, Johnson, and Anthony had all appeared. Other than the rank 1 expert among the mercenary soldiers, the rest had already been buried underground. Putting Sun Zhongyang aside, even Lu Shu was slightly annoyed. To be honest, when the 3 spirits that Lu Xiaoyu controlled had advanced to rank 1, his abilities while the celestial map was locked up were a far cry from that of Lu Xiaoyu's. But Lu Shu smiled. It was not long before he advanced to rank 1. The rank 1 expert silently stood in the forest. He coldly looked at Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu. He was steadfast and did not move. There was a massive box of swords on his back with 12 swords inside. Lu Shu did not know what he had been through. Although the universe did not have many metahumans that Lu Shu often saw on Earth, this did not mean that everyone's techniques were largely similar. On the contrary, they were diverse and varied. Lu Xiaoyu found a sturdy tree branch and jumped up to sit on it. She did not seem nervous at all. People from the outside world thought that they were 2 rank 2s, but it was the people who provoked them because of this who would suffer the most severe losses. For example, they would lose their lives. Clang. There was a sharp sound from the box of swords. It was as if he was not afraid that he would not be able to escape when the rest of his comrades had died. He did not even seem to be afraid of death. On the other hand, he grew more and more imposing. At that moment, Lu Xiaoyu sat on the tree branch and leaned against the tree. She casually said, "Don't fly into the air." Then, she pointed at Lu Shu. "Fight him. If not, you will die." The soldier expressionlessly made eye contact with Lu Xiaoyu. For some reason, he sensed a strange aura from this young girl. It was a sense of tyranny and darkness that did not match her age. There was a conflicting spirit within her small body. But he laughed coldly. His voice was steady and crude. "Him? A rank 2? Are you making me practice with him? You try to use my life to threaten me, but you don't know how difficult it has been for me to survive. If you had known, you would know the price to pay for taking my life away." Even in this life or death situation, the soldier was not scared. If you wanted to kill him, you would have to bury him alive. But at that moment, he suddenly saw the young man calmly take a branch from a tree beside him. In that moment, it was as if he had created a sword. The soldier looked on as the young man flashed a grin. "Then you wouldn't know how difficult it has been for me to survive either."
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.